Solway. Today, guys, we're going to go over chapter 1 of Caesar's De Bello Gallico, something you guys translated a while ago. And, hold on a second here. All right. Sorry. All right. So this is actually the beginning of part of the AP curriculum. I always like to do this at the end of the year. I usually like to do a lot more of it, but I was going to give you guys a brief introduction. You guys have done a couple ed puzzles, so you kind of know what's going on here. But Julius Caesar, after the year he was consul, was assigned Gaul. And check out this map over here. You have Europe, but with ancient provinces kind of overlaid on it. And so we see Rome and Italy down here. And after Julius Caesar was consul, he was assigned this area, which here it's labeled as our province. The Romans called it Cisalpine Gaul, which means this side of the Alps. You can kind of see the Alps right here. And Spain, the Romans kind of already controlled down here. Germania up here during the Gallic Wars, they fought in here, but they never really established a permanent Roman state here. But from about 50 BC to 58 BC, so around 7 years or so, Julius Caesar added all this white area, which is the Celts, and this red area, which are the Belgae, or the Belgians, under Roman control, added them to the Roman Empire. So it's a huge war. It led to Rome being absolutely dominant as far as land size goes and resources go. And what we focus on in book 1, sorry about the background noise. We focus on in book 1 are these Helvetians, which is modern day Switzerland, and how they want to migrate out of here. And Caesar kind of has to step in. The purple here are the Allobroges. They are under Roman control, but not like completely yet. They will be. All right. And then all the green, the Romans own, and the blue is kind of also friendly with the Romans. All right. And all these things are highlighted in book 1. So we may flip back over to this at some point, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of how much land Caesar adds over the Gallic Wars to the Roman Empire. All right. Let's just dive into the translation. All right. And then what else I should mention is each year of the war is one book. So book 1 represents all the actions in the first year of the war, 58 BC. And there are a total of 6 books. There's a 7th one added later. And these were all published and sent back to Rome as kind of like records of what he was doing in Gaul while he was out there. And he had to prove justification for his actions. So the Roman Senate would favor extending his stay in Gaul. He was only supposed to be there for, I believe, a period of a couple years. All right. So let's go over the translation. All right. Famous first line. All of Gaul is divided into 3 parts, of which, and I gave that to you, of which the Belgae inhabit 1. All right, Belgae are the subject here, of which the Belgae inhabit 1. The other, the Aquitani, you can insert inhabit again. The third, which... Sorry, can you just hold on a second? We're going to eat lunch soon, okay? The third, which are called the Celts in their own language, and give really any help, like in the language of they themselves. In ours, or in our language, the Gauls. So the Romans called This white area, just the Gauls, but they called themselves the Celts. All right, hold on a second. I got to pause here. Sorry, I'm recording of gold. All right, I got to hurry this up here. All right, so the third, which in their language are called the Celts, and ours the Gauls. All right, this little line here, all of these, meaning all three parts, differ among themselves, inter se, among themselves. I give that to you. All these differ among themselves in language, institutions or customs, and laws. All right, and then there's no word for and here. So your junior English may have covered what that's called. That's called asyndeton, when you deliberately leave out an and, all right, or any conjunction. All of these differ among themselves in language, institutions, and laws. So they're all three very different, culturally different areas. All right. This looks simple, but it's actually a little tricky. The Garumna River is the subject. The Garumna River, and there's only one verb in this part, divided, divides. So the Garumna River divides the Gauls from the Aquitani. And if you go back to the map, that is the modern Garonne River, and that does go down this border. The Matrona and the Sequana, and you can insert divides again. The Matrona and the Sequana divides the Gauls from the Belgians. So that's really hard to do. Gauls, you have to repeat again as the direct object. Divides the Gauls from the Belgians. That's the modern day Marne and the Seine. Those are major European rivers. And so if you pop up here, you can see that those rivers are right around here. Okay. All right. All right. Here, Caesar's making a point about the Belgians. Of all of these, the Belgians are the bravest or the strongest. You got the superlative issimi. So of all of these, the Belgians or the Belgae are the strongest. Because, just both these words together can translate as because they are the furthest away. They are the furthest away from the culture and humanity of the province. All right, and what he's talking about here is southern France, which the Romans already control, right around here. And modern day, this is the French Riviera. This is where all your really luxurious places in Europe are, like Monaco. And they have they have a big Formula One race down here. And it's beautiful down here. So this is like a luxury, even to the Romans, this was a luxury area. So the Belgae are the strongest because they're the furthest from that area. So what he means, and it gets into this in the next part, that these people have an easygoing lifestyle down here. It's warmer, and the Belgae are the furthest away from that. All right, so they are the cold. It's cold there. Less access to goods that they would have down here. All right, so he kind of says that in this next part. And merchants is the subject here. And merchants, you can fit in the Saipe here, often visit. And merchants often visit literally to them, but you could just say them. And merchants often visit them the least. You probably translated the least first. And merchants often visit them the least because they're so far away. And the things, I gave that to you, which pertain, and then here you have a gerundive phrase. All this goes together. And the things which pertain to weakening their courage they import, meaning like merchants import the least. So I'll repeat, and the things which pertain to weakening their courage, um, the merchants import the least. Um, when you see the word woman in here, femina, so it's literally like womanizing courage. Not a very progressive word, but it I always like to ask, if we were in class, like, what kind of things do you think are goods you would import? All right, so going back to this, what kind of goods might be available down here that would weaken your courage? All right, according to Caesar here, that the Belgae apparently they don't have access to. Merchants visit them very little. This red area is the Belgae. So, what kind of goods do you think that would be? That might weaken your spirit or weaken your courage. All right, and then another reason they're the fortissimi, the strongest. They are the closest to the Germans. This part's fairly simple, and they're closest to the Germans who live across the Rhine, with whom they continually wage war. With whom they continually wage war. I gave that a lot of that to you. All right, so his second point is they don't have access to goods that would weaken their courage up here, and they fight with the Germans all the time. The Germans were pretty barbaric during this time period and pretty uncivilized and very warlike. So sharing a border across the river here. Oh my God. Sorry. This Frozen 2 microphone that just plays the same 10 seconds of Into the Unknown. All right, anyway. So the Germans are constantly attacking them, so that makes them a strong people. All right, so for that reason, the Belgae are strong. 2 reasons. All right. All right. For this reason, now this is all a tie-in to talk about the Helvetians. For this reason, the Helvetians also surpass the remaining Gauls in virtue or in courage. Is that ablative of description again? You can translate as in courage. Because in almost daily battles, they fight with the Germans. Because in almost daily battles, they fight with the Germans. When either you have out and then another out coming up here, so either or, when either they are prohibiting or they are preventing them from their own territory, or when either they are blocking them from their own territory, or they themselves, referring to the Helvetians, or they themselves are waging war in their territory, referring to the Germans. That's confusing, but so back to the map. The Helvetians are also a very strong people because they share a border with the Germans, a much smaller border. But according to Caesar, they're always fighting with the Germans, all right, across the Rhine River here. So that makes them a very strong and brave people, much like the Belgians. Okay, the rest of this, people argue Caesar actually did not write himself. It's just geography, so I'm going to include the translation. If you're taking AP next year, you should copy it down, and you should keep all these translations handy and labeled, Caesar Book 1, Chapter 1 for AP next year. And hopefully, I know a lot of you aren't, but maybe some of you have changed your mind. That'd be nice. Considering, our time in class together was kind of cut short. And AP is going to look a little different. I don't expect to move at a pace that I'm used to. We do Caesar, we do Virgil, and yeah, I don't know. You guys can always ask me questions if you have. All right, I think this video has gone on for too long. If you have any questions, we're going to have one mandatory class coming up, and that's probably going to be whenever our class meets at the end of the day next week. So I think that'll be Thursday next week. I'll give you guys more information about that. All right, hope you all are well, and take care.